All right, guys, I'm back. I know you've been anxiously awaiting to go over this homework, okay? So I just want to go over these 7 problems, okay? Again, please make sure you're looking at these and asking questions if you have them. Most of you made a great first effort, okay? So if you guys look at that, notice they're both squared. They both have plus 1. So look at your Pythagorean identities. Tan squared x plus 1 is secant squared x. And then 1 plus cotangent squared, again, comes from that trig identity, cosecant squared. Okay? Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. Some of you are leaving it like this. You must simplify, guys. Remember, switch to sines and cosines. The numerator is 1 over cosine squared. Denominator is 1 over sine squared. Okay? So we got that. Now we want to multiply, got my markers all ready for you guys, by the reciprocal. Sine squared over 1 on the bottom. Sine squared over 1 on the top. So the bottom is gone, okay? And then we're left with this, which is sine squared over cosine squared. And that is going to be tangent squared. So number 1 should be tangent squared. Sorry for the shadows, but gotta make do. Gotta make do, folks. All right, number 2. Again, I think these ones are a little bit easier because it's all multiplication. Secant x, tangent x, cosine x. Okay? So you switch them all to sines and cosines and see what can cancel. 1 over cosine, tangent is sine over cosine, and cosine over 1. Okay, right? Again, this was like one we had yesterday. Sometimes you guys will see we'll end up doing the same problems again. Cosines cancel. So all you're left with is that. What is sine over cosine? Tangent x. So number 2 should be tangent x. Whoops. Oh, shoot. All right. Let's look at number 3. Number 3. No, that was 3. Sorry. That was 1 and 3. Sorry, random numbers. Number 4. Sine squared, cotangent, cosecant. Okay? So, again, this is another one that's multiplication. Not awful. Switch them into sines and cosines and see what you can cancel. Please keep in mind, some are squared, some are not. So sine squared over 1. Cotangent would be cosine over sine. Cosecant is 1 over sine. Again, remember, I talked about this before, but C and S are what goes together. That's how I kind of remember that. Cosecant goes with the sine. Cosine goes with secant. Okay? So let's look at this. There's sine squared. How many sines are down here? Yep. 2 of them. Oh, poo. Cross those out. And then number 4, you should just be left with cosine x. That's number 4. All right? 1 minus cosine squared over sine squared. Trig identity, or Pythagorean identity, guys. 1 minus cosine squared. You're going to look at your Pythagorean identity. It is sine squared. You need to recognize those. Sine squared over sine squared. Again, I mentioned this in the last video. Some of you are still putting 0. That is not 0. 1. Okay? All right. Moving along, folks. That was number 5. We are moving along. Number 6. tan squared over 1 minus secant squared. All right, so again, you want to look for Pythagorean identities, guys. This one right here, you got to see a 1 and the fact that it's squared and go to your Pythagorean identities. 1 minus secant squared, it's backwards, okay? So if you guys think about your Pythagorean identity, secant squared minus 1 is tan squared. Okay? Notice it's backwards. So if you were to flip this, that would change these signs. Secant squared would be negative. Here it is, negative, positive. The one, so it switches signs. Negative to positive, positive to negative. So then it would have to switch this to negative. So that's the one I mentioned on the video yesterday where it's backwards. Okay? So it's a negative. So then those reduce, and number 6 is negative 1. Again, that one's tricky. It's where it's backwards. Okay? All right, two more. Tangent squared, cosecant squared minus 1. Okay? Again, some of you will be like, oh, I distributed. Which, guys, you can still get the answer if you distribute. Okay? It's not wrong. But if you look at that, look at your trig identities. Cosecant squared minus 1 is, again, you should look at your trig identities, and it's cotangent squared. And I get it where you guys are like, well, Miss P, you said turn everything to sine and cosine. Yes, most of the time. But in this case, this is tangent squared. This is 1 over tangent squared. And some of you will see right away that equals 1 again. Again, number 7 is 1. Questions on that? Any? One more. Again, right now, these are basically our lessons. I'm going over the homework to help you with the next problems. Last one, number 9. Cosine squared over 1 minus cosine squared. Again, trig or Pythagorean identity. If you guys look at that, 1 minus cosine squared is sine squared. Whoops. Cosine squared. A few of you are still leaving it that. Simplify one more step. Remember, the c's on top. So that is going to be cotangent squared. All right? Again, that is the answers for the homework from yesterday. You guys are doing a good job. Please keep it up. We're just going to do some more practice today. So please do your assignment and then turn it back in. Hopefully I can attach the correct worksheet and make our lives easier. Happy Wednesday.